There is a lake in the Indian Himalayas. It sits at 5,020 meters above sea level. It is surrounded by the peaks of Trishul and Nanda Gunti. For most of the year, it is frozen solid and completely inaccessible. Its official name is Roopkund. Most people call it Skeleton Lake. Because when the snow melts every summer, human bones appear at its shores. Skulls, femurs, rib cages, scattered across the rocky ground and visible through the shallow water. The remains of somewhere between 300 and 800 people. For over a century, scientists, archaeologists and geneticists have tried to explain who these people were and how they all died. In 2019, Harvard University published what should have been the final answer. Instead, they made the mystery significantly, profoundly worse. The year is 1942. A British forest ranger named Hari Kishan Madhwal is patrolling the remote Roopkund region of what is now Uttarakhand, India. He stumbles upon hundreds of human skulls scattered around a high-altitude lake. His first report to British authorities raises a chilling possibility: a hidden Japanese invasion force. The investigators arrive. The bones are quickly determined to be far too old for any Japanese connection. Radiocarbon dating would later place the oldest remains at approximately 800 CE, more than 1,000 years before the Second World War. So, not a Japanese army. Then who? And why here, at one of the most inaccessible places on Earth? Before the scientists arrived, the local communities of Uttarakhand already had an answer. The legend says this: the king of Kanauj, Raja Jasdaval, made a pilgrimage to the sacred shrine of the mountain goddess Nanda Devi. He brought his pregnant wife, servants, a dance troupe and musicians. The procession was grand and celebratory, but Nanda Devi was not pleased. Angered by the noise and celebration in her sacred domain, the goddess sent a catastrophic hailstorm. The hailstones were described in the old songs as large as iron balls. The entire party, the king, the queen, the dancers, was killed on the mountainside. For generations, this was considered a legend, a cautionary tale. Then archaeologists examined the skulls and found circular fractures on the top and back of the cranium, consistent with rounded objects falling from above. The legend had described the deaths exactly correctly. For decades, the scientific consensus was straightforward. A single group of South Asian people killed in a single catastrophic event around 800 CE. The legend seemed confirmed. Then, in 2019, an international team, Harvard, the Max Planck Institute, Penn State, and multiple Indian institutions, published a landmark genomic study in Nature Communications. They analyzed the DNA of 38 individual skeletons from Roopkund Lake. The results were, in the team's own words, unexpected. The 38 skeletons did not belong to one group. They clustered into 3 completely distinct populations with entirely different genetic ancestries. Group A, 23 individuals consistent with present-day South Asian populations, dates around 800 CE. Group B, 14 individuals whose ancestry most closely matched present-day populations from Greece and the island of Crete, dates around 1800 CE, a full 1,000 years later. Group C, 1 individual with ancestry approximately 82% Malay and 18% Vietnamese, also around 1800 CE. 3 groups, 3 different parts of the world, 3 different centuries, 1 remote Himalayan lake. The single catastrophe theory was dead. The remains at Roopkund were deposited in at least 2 separate death events, separated by approximately 1,000 years. Of all the findings, none has generated more scientific discussion, and none remains more completely unexplained than the 14 individuals with Greek and Cretan ancestry. Think about what this means. Sometime around the year 1800 CE, during the era of British colonial India, 14 people whose DNA was indistinguishable from present-day Greeks and Cretans traveled to one of the most remote and dangerous pilgrimage routes in the Himalayas. climbed to over 5,000 meters, and died there. Co-author Niraj Rai of the Birbal Sahni Institute stated directly that the team had tried to account for all possible explanations for the Mediterranean presence and had failed. Lead researcher Eardween Harney of Harvard said, "When we got the DNA back, it was super clear that some of these were not individuals with typical South Asian ancestry." What were they doing there? Greek merchants were active across the Indian Ocean trade network in 1800 CE. A Greek traveller reaching India is historically plausible, but 14 people, with Greek and Cretan ancestry, dead at a remote Himalayan pilgrimage lake. No historical record, no document, no letter, no diary, nothing. A mystery with no explanation from one of the world's leading genetics laboratories. Pull back to the wider mystery, philosophical, unresolved. The cause of death raises its own question. Many skulls from multiple groups show the same circular fractures, blunt trauma from above, not weapons, no cut marks, no blade injuries. Both men and women present in roughly equal numbers, ruling out any military engagement. The most compelling explanation is an extreme hailstorm. At high altitude above the tree line with no shelter, a severe storm would be unsurvivable. This explains the 800 CE group. It potentially explains the 1800 CE group. But it raises the question that nobody has been able to answer. Why did multiple groups across 1,000 years keep dying at the same lake? Urgent. Quiet urgency, not alarmist, factual. There is one more dimension to this mystery, and it is urgent. Roopkund is a popular trekking destination. Thousands of visitors arrive each summer, and for decades, many of them have been taking bones, skulls, femurs, fragments of jewelry as souvenirs. The 2019 research team explicitly noted that the site had been severely disturbed by visitors over many decades, making systematic analysis increasingly difficult. Every year, the summer melt reveals fewer remains. This mystery may not be solved by science. It may simply disappear. Slow, final, leave it open. Here is where we stand. We know the remains belong to at least 3 distinct groups from South Asia, the Eastern Mediterranean, and Southeast Asia, deposited across roughly 1,000 years. We know many deaths were caused by blunt trauma from above, consistent with an extreme hailstorm. We do not know why 14 people with Greek and Cretan ancestry were at a remote Himalayan pilgrimage lake in 1800 CE. We do not know why multiple separate groups across 1,000 years died at the same place. The Harvard research team stated explicitly that they had tried to find all possible explanations and had failed. Roopkund is a mystery that science has made deeper, not shallower, and it sits at 5,020 meters in the Indian Himalayas, waiting for an answer that has not yet arrived. If this made you think, subscribe. Next week we go somewhere equally extraordinary.